Coming up on this episode of the Hockey Nuts, Steve and I get you caught up with all the news of the past week around the hockey world. NHL teams have begun their bye weeks, so action on the ice is light, but off the ice it's as busy as ever. There are trades, signings, ownership changes, injuries, and more to discuss. We'll have all the details of all this, plus the Minor League Hockey Minute, the NCAA Hockey Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts Podcast, Season 2, Episode 20, recorded on Friday, January 12th, 2017. New owner vows to turn this team around.
Shut up and sit down.
In on Lundqvist. Saved by Lundqvist. Nomad Zuccarello, who's been the career best for the Rangers. He's out tonight. Mika Zibanejad. 2 for 5 in shootouts this season. Fake shoot, scores! Now Derek Stepan must score or it's over. And he's got to score against his longtime friend, Henrik Lundqvist. Stepan moves in. Saved by Lundqvist. Rangers win.
Kevin Miller pokes the puck to Torrey Krug. Miller ahead to Bergeron, loses track of the puck, but recovers and whacks the backhand forward. It's still skidding around. Here's Marchand looking for Pasternak. Bergeron has the hat trick. Patrice Bergeron with the second of his career, and it's raining hats at TD Garden.
He has done an exemplary job as commissioner of this league. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Gary Bettman.
A little over 20 years ago, Pete had a vision. He had a vision that a remarkable market, a growing market, a vibrant market, like the Triangle in North Carolina, but didn't have any professional sports, would be a great place to bring hockey, to have hockey grow, to make it a part of the community. And his vision was that with this arena and this community, hockey would not only have a presence here, but would have an opportunity to thrive. That this community would be able to show the world that it could support professional sports. And if you think back over the last 20 years, we've had a draft here. It was sensational. We had an all-star game here. It was sensational. You had a parade here after winning the Stanley Cup. And if you think back over the last 20 years, there are plenty of teams that haven't hoisted the Stanley Cup. This was all part of Pete's vision as to what hockey, NHL hockey, could be in North Carolina. And it's not just the All-Star game and the draft and winning the Stanley Cup. This is the first place I can ever recall in my 25 years of people tailgating for a hockey game. Okay? During the Stanley Cup final, Game 7, this is the first time at a professional sporting event that I can recall that everybody stood for the entire game. This is a community that has embraced NHL hockey and the Hurricanes. Now, I know over the years there's been speculation and rumor and innuendo about the future of this franchise. Let me tell you, as I repeatedly said over the years, this franchise wasn't going anywhere and isn't going anywhere. And Tom Dundon.
The thing that's great about sports is you get to build an emotional attachment. So if we can get the players and the fans engaged with each other, and give people a reason to come, the team's winning, the experience is good, they're getting value, then we'll sell more tickets. And if we don't sell more tickets, it's not the fans' fault, it's our fault. So I believe we do certain things that the result will be there. And if there's more fans, there's more energy in the building, it's better for the players, it's better for the fans, they're more likely to come. So we'll go first, and then I think the fans will support the team because they have before. And there's no other place, or at least the reason I think this all is so interesting is where else can you build that sort of emotional engagement and attachment? And you see it the way you all treat your college teams and the way I think this team was treated and is treated by quite a few people, just we need more of that. And when they win, I can't sleep, and when they lose, I'm just miserable. And I just need more people on that with me. I know we'll get more fans, we'll get more revenues, and I don't think we would wait for that if he found an opportunity. It's not a question if it's going to happen in my mind. And so there's a difference in types of patience, right? We're going to make good, rational decisions, and we're going to win. And I value winning more than money, but it doesn't mean I want to burn it. So we'll figure out how to balance these things. And if he finds opportunities that create value, and we do our job on the business side, then it won't be about the money, and it shouldn't be. It should just be about making good decisions. And I think these guys can make really good decisions, and they won't think about whether we have the money. They'll think about how they manage their constraints around salary caps and flexibility in the future. So I don't. It's not even something that we need to think about much, because if there's a good deal, we're going to get a good deal. To follow up on a question earlier, when the reason I ended up doing this is when I tried to buy the team from Pete, he said no. He wasn't okay with my price, and I understood, and I thought we'd keep in touch, but that was the end of that. And never in my life had I gone back on a deal. Like if we didn't get a deal done, it was over, and I didn't think about it again. I went on to the next one, and for about a week, it's not clinical, but depressed is a reasonable word. And I'd been watching the team, and I'm invested, and now it's not. I'm done. It's over. I'm irrelevant, and I can't do what I want to do with the organization. And so I called him back groveling, and that's how we came to our deal. So I've already sort of proven, I think, that I'll make an irrational financial decision if it means we can win something. So
we think all of our markets make sense, and we've always believed that the Triangle was a great place for NHL hockey. And the things that I mentioned in my opening over time anecdotally proved it. There's great passion here. And Tom mentioned all of the college athletics that's here, but this is the one team that really can unite this community. There's a lot of fragmented sports rooting interests depending on which school you follow, which school you went to, where your kids went. But this is, for the Triangle, for North Carolina, the hockey team, the professional team, that is the one team that everybody can get behind. And with the things that Tom envisions, not just winning, but being active in the community and organizationally, the fan experience that's being provided, those are the things that will drive this franchise to even greater heights. But there was never a risk of this team moving, and it used to drive us crazy when we would have to spend hours on the phone refuting stories that were just made up. And in some cases, I suppose, wishful thinking. Not wishful by us, but by the other places that would like to have a team.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Nuts podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going tonight, Steve?
Good evening, Wayne. How we doing there? We doing all right tonight? Thumbs up. Thumbs up coming from here.
I'm doing great. I'm actually very excited tonight. First of all, this is episode 21 of season 2, for those who are counting. And overall, it's episode 66. So I guess if we were doing what other podcasts do and name their their episodes after a particular player. There's only one player that comes to mind when I see the number 66.
Yeah. I can only think of one myself, up the road in Pittsburgh.
Yep, up the road in Pittsburgh, Super Mario. So anyway.
Super Mario.
So anyway, I'm very, very excited today because for the last couple of hours while we were waiting to go on the air tonight, I have been getting caught up on all the news of the day surrounding our local Carolina Hurricanes. And for those who don't know, the Hurricanes, of course, we are recording today. It's Friday, January 12th. And as of today, the Hurricanes are officially under new ownership. And I was watching all the press conferences with the new owner and the old owner, and everybody's all lovey-dovey right now, just like, it's like a new relationship, all that stuff. But yeah, we'll have a lot more to talk about that. But that's the big news out of our area this week coming up. And, of course, we've got a lot of other stuff to talk about tonight. It's been actually on the ice. It's been a quiet week around the league because probably, I would say, close to half the teams are enjoying their bye week.
Yep.
And the other half go next week. So all these bye weeks are all taking place. It's a little bit different this year than last year, in that last year the bye weeks were spread out pretty much throughout the whole season.
Right.
This year they're cramming everybody's bye week into a 2-week period in January, which means this week and next week is a very light schedule around the NHL. There's never more than 8 or 9 games tops going on around the league, and most nights, particularly these weeknights, there's been 2 games, 3 games, 1 game. So it's been a pretty quiet week on the ice. But there's been a lot of news off the ice. Of course, you got the ownership change in Raleigh. You've got some Olympic news coming out of Team Canada we got to talk about. Now, as we were recording last week, we recorded right before the gold medal game of the World Juniors. Now, I know that's old news now, but we'll talk about that one game that took place since we last recorded. And we'll have to wrap that whole tournament up for you. And then, there's been a couple of trades. There's been some injuries. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about tonight. So,
the first 2 weeks of the new year, Wayne, this week and into next week, things are kind of slow. That's maybe why they chose to do this with the bye weeks. I know in my job, I'm a food vendor, and things are slower. Although I got some overtime this week, things are slower this week and next week for sure. And then they pick back up again. So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
Possibly. Oh, well, I think what the whole reason behind the bye week situation that they wanted all the teams to get them done was one of the big complaints last year with the bye weeks is a team that went on their bye, when they were coming out of their bye, if they faced a team that was playing the whole week leading up to that, more often than not, and actually quite a significant portion of the time, the team that had been playing all along came in and won the game against the team coming off their bye, because that team's kind of coming, they've been off for a few days. You get a little bit sluggish. Doesn't take long when you're playing at that level. So I think what they're doing this year is they're trying to make it so that teams that are coming off a bye are playing against teams who were also on a bye. Like, for example, Boston's on their bye week right now. They play Montreal tomorrow night coming out of their bye, and Montreal had the exact same 5-day period off that Boston did. So no advantage goes to either team in that case in terms of having that bye. And I think they've been more sensitive to that, and they're doing that as much as possible this time around. So, and we'll see how it goes. And then if things are still a problem, they may end up. They've talked about having to scrap it if it doesn't work out. But we'll see. That's something that will be discussed at the Board of Governors meetings in when are they? March is I think is the next one when they get together in Florida. Usually in March, right before. Right after the trade deadline and right before the playoffs start is usually when the next Board of Governors meetings are. So that's when they discuss rule changes and all that fun stuff. So, all right, well, let's get started on all the stuff that we talk about. And, of course, as usual, we talk about our 3 teams.
Yes.
And We'll get Boston and the Rangers out of the way because both teams were on their bye this week, and both only had a couple of games since the last time we recorded. As far as the Bruins are concerned, they got a 7-1 win against Carolina at home way back on the 6th, and a 6-5 overtime loss at Pittsburgh on the 7th. So back-to-back nights to going into their bye week, and then they've been off since then. But I was looking at the standings, and those games feel like they've happened so long ago. I could barely remember what happened there. Obviously, that 7-1 win versus Carolina. I was at work that night. I had to work until 7 p.m., which is when the game started, obviously. And, of course, finishing up some of the tasks I had to do before I could leave. I had to do an order and such. So certain things I have to do before I can leave.
Right.
By the time I got that stuff done, it was about 7:30. I get in the car. It was already 4-1 Boston. I'm like, holy cow. It was still, halfway through the first period, it was 4-1 Boston. I'm like, damn. Right. And then by the time I got home, it was like 6-1 or something like that. It was crazy how fast the Bruins put up a score. So it's just one of those. Carolina's had a few of those games this year where they just come in and just lay an egg right off the bat, and just a throwaway game. So
I think it's a lack of focus.
Youth, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But Boston pretty much won that game going away, and I didn't get a chance to see the 6-5 game against Pittsburgh because I worked that night, and I also had other things going on that just kept me from watching that game. So don't have much to say about that game, but I did look at the standings over the past week, and one thing I did notice, particularly with the Bruins being on their bye week, they had that game that got canceled a week or so ago. The Bruins are now tied with San Jose, having played the fewest number of games in the entire league. Boston's only played 40 games. They haven't even reached the halfway point yet. They still got one more game to go before they've officially reached the halfway point in the season.
Right.
Now, right now, and that just shows the wide range of how many games are being played by certain teams. Boston and San Jose have each played 40. St. Louis has played 46. Everybody else is in between.
Right.
So the standings are kind of wacky looking with respect to that because you got some teams having 6 more games played than others.
Right.
You just don't. The standings just looking at points wise is kind of gives you a false indication of who's doing well and who isn't. So, but we'll talk about that when we get to the power rankings.
All right.
Now, the Rangers, they only had a couple of games.
They only had a couple, and they were both close-scoring games. You know my philosophy when you're playing on the road, if you can win 50% of your games, you're doing pretty good. I take that every year.
Yep.
So that's what we did. We won in a shootout in Arizona. At times in that game, I was concerned. Arizona came to play that night. They really played exceptionally well in the first period, but as I recall, we came on strong in the second period, and I felt matched them up well, tied the game up, and put it into overtime, which I felt. I was very upset by the way Arizona played that overtime. I felt like they wanted the game to go to a shootout, and they played as in college basketball when Dean Smith was around. When Dean Smith was around, you remember Dean Smith?
Yep.
At the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill invented that 4 corners.
Yep.
They played the 4 corners in hockey. They just passed the puck, and they'd stand around, and basically they killed 2.5 minutes with the puck and did nothing and let the time go down to get it into a shootout. I don't know why. Maybe they felt like their chances of winning the game were better in a shootout. I don't know.
Well, that's where most of their wins have come, I think, this year is winning games in shootouts. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It just seems like whenever I see Arizona getting the win, it seems to be via shootout.
Yeah.
Or overtime, one or the other.
Well, they lost. They lost the game, and I didn't think it was a good strategy, but they played well. I felt they were much better than their record indicated, but I was happy we got a win, and I really wanted us to win the next night against Vegas, but that didn't happen. I thought that was an evenly matched game, though. I felt like both teams had their chances to win, and Vegas wound up winning. I'm very impressed with Jonathan Marchessault, and what's his name?
James Neal?
Not James Neal. Oh, God. Carlson.
Oh, yep.
Carlson is playing great for them, too.
Yep. Yeah, a hat trick there recently.
Yeah. He had a goal. In the game that night, too. So, but, hey, Vegas is, they're a juggernaut now, and they're an expansion team. And I just don't know how to put it into words, but, they're gonna be in the playoffs, and they're gonna be hard to beat. I just wait to see that winning a game in Las Vegas is very difficult. It's not easy.
Yep. They've only lost twice in their building so far this year. So 18 wins, 2 losses. I mean,
we went up on them, but couldn't win the game.
Yep.
So, anyways, that's it. We're waiting for a game tomorrow, 1:00.
Yep. The Rangers come off their bye tomorrow, just the same as Boston does. So, but meanwhile, Carolina, our local team, they have not gone on their bye week. Their bye week doesn't start till the 15th. So they've been playing games all week long, and so I've been enjoying a little bit of their action while our other teams have been away. And going back to the 6th, of course, that was that game in Boston where Carolina just essentially failed to show up, ended up getting blown out 7-1. The only other comment I had on that one, at least in a Carolina perspective, is I felt like Carolina pulled Cam Ward a little too early. And I don't know if that's because he's been playing a lot lately, so they decided that, they would be quick with try to get him some rest, I guess, maybe. Like they almost wanted to go to Darling for that game, but decided not to at the last minute just to see if they could have a chance to win. But, I mean, they pulled him at 2-0 out of that game. So it just seemed to be a bit early to pull Ward. Not sure what the thinking was there. But anyway, that game ended up 7-1 Boston. The 3 nights later, they had a game at Tampa Bay, and that was a 5-4 loss there, and that was a regulation loss. So that one hurt a little bit. And then the 2 nights after that, they had the 3-1 win versus Washington, and that was at Washington. That was actually last night. And I watched that game, and that was a very, very strong effort on the part of the Carolina Hurricanes in that game. So, a lot of pundits were saying, "Oh, Washington's playing so well." I think they had won 10 in a row at home going into that game.
Right.
And Carolina with their goaltending has been inconsistent as it was. They started Darling, who's been struggling even more than Cam Ward has, and everybody was expecting Washington to basically run away with that game, but that wasn't the case. Carolina held on with a 2-1 lead, got the empty netter to make it 3-1, and that's how it ended in that game. And that's actually the first half of a home and home. So that game was last night. Tonight, both teams are down here playing in Carolina, and Cam Ward will be in net tonight. And I would imagine we'll probably see Grubauer in net for Washington.
Rather than playing Holtby twice.
Right. Because Darling played last night, and I believe Holtby played last night as well. So I expect to see Grubauer and Cam Ward tonight. So yeah, kind of an up and down week for Carolina, but they've got some exciting news we'll talk about a little bit later in the show concerning their ownership, and we will take things from there. All right. As far as other games going on this week, we mentioned earlier, there's just hasn't been a whole lot going on. I really didn't have a lot of time this week to watch too much hockey other than the games that involve our team, so I don't really have a whole lot to comment on there. Just safe to say that seems like the standings are starting to shake out. The good teams are starting to show up. The bad teams are starting to show as well. We'll put it that way.
And listen, I'm seeing the trend of teams starting to fade. It's starting to happen. And so we'll see if it continues. Really after the All-Star break, Wayne, I mean, every single point is so valuable.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I'm ready to say, because I've been kind of reserved to say, speaking of teams fading, I've been holding out hope that the Edmonton Oilers would finally get, put things together and make a run. But I'm saying it official. It's not going to happen this year.
No,
They're done.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I came to that conclusion at the last podcast, and they maybe had a chance, but no, it's not going to happen.
Because they seem to be showing signs, and put a couple wins together, 3 wins together, and then we'd be like, oh, here we go, Edmonton's coming back. No, then they'd lose 3. Well, now they've lost 3. They're now sitting at just 39 points. Minnesota is in the last playoff spot with 50, so they are now 11 points back with a whole lot of teams between them and that 8th spot.
Yeah.
I am officially calling Edmonton toast. So as far as I can tell at this point, realistically, I see Buffalo as being out in the East. I'm not ready to count out Ottawa and Montreal just yet, or Detroit, because they are still only 9 points back, 9 points back. They could, if they go on a nice 10-0 run, they could get back into things.
Right.
But even with the 10-0 run, Buffalo's out. In the West, I see Edmonton, Vancouver, Arizona out. So at this point, I see 4 teams out of the running. I don't know what you see, but
in the West, you mean as being teams that are just not going to make it?
That are just not going to make the playoffs. West and East.
Okay, in the East, if we take a look at it, of course, I think it's going to be without a doubt 5 teams from the Metro division. I really believe that.
Oh yeah, it absolutely will be.
I think you can make that conclusion now.
Yep.
But I don't see. I think Montreal is dangling very, very close. If they want to switch positions with, say, Carolina, I don't see it happening. Montreal is virtually out of it. Detroit is on life support. Florida, if they put something together, they maybe could get back. But it's so tight with these teams in the Metro that they're going to fight for points, and it's almost going to be like it'll be La Cucaracha every night. Yeah. Trying to get 2 points will wear you out, and so
I'm with you in that I've got Florida, Detroit, Montreal, Ottawa are on life support. Yeah. But I'm not ready to officially say they're done.
Right.
There's no chance that they're coming back. Because if they go on a 10, 12-game win streak, which has happened in recent past, teams can do it. One of those teams can climb back into the picture. But as far as Buffalo is concerned, they're so far back now. Even with a 10, 15-game win streak, I don't see them getting all the way back into the playoff picture. That's why I'm saying
Buffalo's out.
That's why I'm saying Buffalo is absolutely out.
I think Ottawa's out too. I don't see Ottawa putting it together. I think they're a team that is really struggling in the locker room and struggling mentally to stay afloat. And with the Erik Karlsson disclosure, I just think there's a lot of stuff with that team, unfortunately, that they're just not. I don't see Ottawa coming back into the picture for the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there going on there that's off the ice that's causing issues. You've got the uncertain future with Erik Karlsson, like you said. You've got Matt Duchene, who was supposed to be the savior when he got traded to go there, and has done practically nothing since he got there. And you've got the ownership who just seems to be. I like to refer to him as the Jerry Jones of the NHL, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. He should leave it to his hockey people. You've got arena issues there, not so much the arena itself, but attendance issues there for a Canadian market that, as hockey mad Canadians are, why that building is not full every night, just like, every other Canadian city in the league is sold out every game, 100% maximum attendance. And in cases like Montreal and Toronto, ticket prices have gone so ridiculously high that the average person, but they still sell the building out. You don't have that in Ottawa.
Right.
So what's going on there that's causing all of this off the ice stuff? So you've got the uncertainty with that team is very dangerously heading into a situation where they could be lumped in with the Floridas, the Carolinas, the Arizonas as a team that could be on the move.
Right.
if they don't get their act together. So you have all that mess to deal with there in Ottawa. So yeah, probably they're done, but there is a very slim chance that them as well as Montreal, Detroit, Florida could potentially get back into it. But they better get it going.
Yeah.
And then out west, we were saying the same thing, just like that. Edmonton can get back into it, but they better get going. Well, they never did. Now I see them at a point where it's too late for them.
Yep. No, those three teams at the bottom, Edmonton, Vancouver, Arizona, they're done.
Yep.
And then you've got a race between the rest of them. Chicago, San Jose, Colorado, Anaheim, they're all going to fight probably until the end of the season to determine it. So you have 15 teams in the Western Conference. You'll have a 12-team race. I think you can look at it as Vegas is in. LA, the Kings are probably in. I see them really making a push. They're probably in, the veterans that they are.
I see Winnipeg in too.
Winnipeg is in. Nashville's going to make it, and St. Louis is going to make it. I think you can punch tickets for those 5 teams, and then after that, it is going to be a freaking dog race. Yep. It's going to be a cat fight in the alley, and I don't know. I have no idea.
You've got 8 the 8 teams fighting for 4 spots after that. After those 5.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. It's going to make every game. It's going to make every game worth something.
Yep.
And in the East, it's a little bit more spread out. Like we said, Florida, Detroit, Montreal, Ottawa are basically on life support. Buffalo is out. That leaves us with the Islanders, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Rangers, Devils, and Columbus, and to some extent Washington, all fighting for 5 playoff spots.
Yep. The whole division.
That's the entire division. I don't know why I listed it. That's all 8 teams fighting. Yeah. All 8 teams from top to bottom. That division is 11 points from first place to 8th.
Yep. You might see the Islanders slipping down. They're in the last place now, and they're not playing well these last.
No.
And we play them tomorrow. A must win for us. We got to win the game.
Yeah, Islanders are 3-6-1 in their last 10. That's not a good place to be right now.
So we'll see what happens. But that's my take on it.
Yep. All right, well, let's move on to some of the stories we've got going on around the league. First and foremost, we got to talk about some transactions that have taken place. And starting with a trade. Forward Anthony Duclair was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks by the Arizona Coyotes on Wednesday. Chicago also gets defenseman Adam Clendening, with Arizona receiving forwards Richard Panik and Laurent Dauphin. Duclair has 15 points in 33 games this season, his 4th in the NHL. 3rd with the Coyotes. He was traded from the Rangers to Arizona for defenseman Keith Yandel on March 1st of 2015 and had 44 points in 81 games last season. 15-16 season. That was 2 seasons ago. His first full season with Arizona, then 15 points last year. Panik, who signed a 2-year contract with the Blackhawks on May 11th, has 16 points in 37 games this season. He had 44 points with Chicago last year. He was a healthy scratch for 5 games this season, and his goal against the Ottawa Senators on Tuesday was his first since October 21st when he scored against the Coyotes. Clendening has 2 assists in 5 NHL games this season and 5 points in 21 games with Tucson of the American Hockey League. Dauphin has played 32 NHL games, including 24 with the Coyotes last season, and he has 14 points in 33 games with Rockford of the American Hockey League. So, what's your initial impression on this one?
Okay, Anthony Duclair came up the ranks. He was a Ranger.
Yep.
He was in the Rangers system.
So was Clendening.
Yes, and Anthony Duclair came from the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. He came to the Rangers highly touted, and actually I thought he played his first few games not so bad. He's a fast skater. He definitely has the charisma, I guess. The fans liked him. But for some reason, he just didn't do what the Rangers wanted him to do. And I can contrast him with a guy like Jimmy Vesey, who came in, had 15 or 16 goals last year. I'm not sure exactly what, but Jimmy Vesey played very well his first year as a starter for the Rangers. I don't think they saw Duclair in nearly the same prominent position. He was, I think he went down to Hartford I'd have to go back and check, but he wasn't playing every night. And I'm not sure what the reason for that was, but the Rangers traded him relatively quickly to Arizona. He was not on the squad with the Rangers very long. And so they felt, and the Rangers have a very close relationship with the Arizona Coyotes. Very close. So a lot of players wind up trading back and forth. It's a common thing to see players on our team from their team. So he went to a team where he could have really done very well. And I'm not saying he hasn't, but I guess Arizona was looking for more than what they got. Because I really thought he was going to flourish as a Coyote. That was my feeling. And I'm not saying he didn't to a certain extent.
And it almost sounds like the same thing has happened in Arizona. Now, is it his fault? It's not a very good team out there. So, no, I just saw, my first impression was this essentially looks like a trade between two teams that each had a player that needs a change of venue, that needs a change of scenery, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Players, both Panik and Duclair, both have potential to be decent players in this league. Mm-hmm. But just hadn't shown that or hadn't reached that potential yet. So, so they decided to give them both. And I know there was a lot of rumblings out of Arizona too in the last couple of weeks that Duclair wanted out. So I was kind of half expecting this trade, or at least him to be on the move. I didn't know where, but
I haven't heard that. But I will say this. It would not surprise me at all if the Blackhawks don't turn him into a 20 or 30, because we had Artem Anisimov. You'll remember Artem Anisimov. Yep. He played for the Rangers. He was good. I thought he was a very good player. And then he winds up in Chicago, and he is turned into a maestro. Yep. He is the leader of the line he plays on. Chicago depends on him heavily. So I would not be surprised at all to see Anthony Duclair go up to Chicago and then put the pieces together, whatever they may be. And here he is scoring 25 or 30 goals a year. It would not surprise me at all.
Yep.
I could see it happening.
And you could see the same thing with Panik, although, as bad as the Coyotes are this year, I wouldn't expect that this year, but maybe as part of a rebuild out there, you might see that in the future for him. Yep. Now, the other two players involved in this trade, Clendening and Dauphin, they're just kind of throw-ins at this point. Neither one is projected to be, in a very strong role with their NHL team, because both players have seen time in the American Hockey League this year, so they both seem to be up and down players. It was just a couple of throw-ins there, so I don't know. That's the way I see that one. So hopefully both Duclair and Panik get.
Wayne, I want to pick that powerful hockey brain of yours. What do you see? You've seen Duclair play? What do you see happening in Chicago? If you were to open up your crystal ball, what do you foresee possibly?
Well, if what they're saying is true, that he wanted out of Arizona, I expect an immediate pickup in his play. Because he should be happy. He's going to a team that's going to make the playoffs. I know they're not sitting in a playoff spot now, but I bet anything Chicago's going to get in there at the end. Right. They're gonna be difficult to eliminate once they get in the playoffs. It's a team that tends to step up their game as the games become more important. So whether he can buy into that, we'll see. But I think, my initial impression, I think you're going to see a bump in Duclair's stats. So if you have him on your fantasy team, I don't think many people would. He's not really in that realm at this point. But I don't know. I think you'll see a bit of a jump start to his career. Now, will he turn into a first or second liner? I wouldn't go that far, but he should be a very at least a serviceable player for the Blackhawks going forward. Good. So, all right. Next transaction was some signings. Nashville was busy this week. Defenseman Yannick Weber, Matt Irwin, and Anthony Bitetto each signed a contract with the Nashville Predators on Tuesday. Each could have become unrestricted free agents on July 1st. Weber, who's not related to the Weber that they traded to get PK, signed a 2-year, $1.35 million contract, which has an average annual value of $675,000. He has 3 points and 22 block shots in 25 games this season. His second with Nashville, selected by the Canadiens in the third round of the 2007 NHL draft. Weber has 81 points in 372 games with the Canadiens, Canucks, and Predators. Irwin, who's 30, signed a 2-year, $1.35 million contract. So for the same amount of money, he had 7 points in 34 block shots in 31 games this season, his second with Nashville, and has 71 points in 260 games with the Bruins, Sharks, and Predators. Potato signed a 1-year, $650,000 contract. He has 3 points and 23 block shots in 22 games this season. Selected by Nashville in the 6th round of the 2010 NHL Draft, he has 16 points in 86 NHL games. Roman Josi, Matthias Ekholm, and PK Subban are signed for at least the next 3 seasons, and Ryan Ellis is signed through the 2019-20 season. So, with all these defensemen being signed, Nashville is not going to have to worry about defensemen, at least for the next year anyway.
Right.
Or 2.
And everything looks rosy right now in Nashville as far as I'm concerned, Wayne. They're setting themselves up for another playoff run, I think. And they're making good decisions in the front office,
Yep, they certainly are. Obviously these 3 guys that they just signed this week are not going to be, their top tier guys. I mean, you have Josi, you have Ekholm, Subban, Ellis. Those are the clear 1 through 4 on that team. And I challenge you to find a 1 through 4 that is as good as this group anywhere in the league.
Yep. Oh, I agree. No, that's a very good point, Wayne.
So Weber, Irwin, and Potato, those guys are going to share that's your bottom pairing right there.
Yeah.
And so they've basically got 7 defensemen signed through next season at the very least.
Yeah.
So yeah, we shouldn't see any movement concerning defensemen anyway for the Nashville Predators going forward.
Right. And kudos to them, man. Stanley Cup, they could win it. They could win the Stanley Cup. They have the crowd. They have the great defense. I look forward to the postseason. They should be primed and ready to go.
Yep, I'm glad our teams are not in the West with them.
Yep.
Because somebody's going to have to face them and beat them. So.
Yep.
All right. So the other transaction I had this week was forward Andrew Cogliano signed a 3-year contract with the Ducks on Friday. That's today. The 30-year-old could have become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Financial terms were not announced. Cogliano has 18 points in 43 games this season. He had 351 points in 829 NHL games with the Ducks and Oilers, and has not missed a game since his debut with the Oilers against the Sharks on October 4th, 2007. Cogliano's streak of 829 consecutive games is the longest current streak in the NHL, and his 4th longest in league history after Doug Jarvis, who played 964 games, Gary Unger, who played 914, and Steve Larmer, who played 884. All 3 of those guys are like 70s, 80s era players. So yeah, you don't see those kind of Iron Man streaks go on anymore in any sport. Never mind hockey.
That's true.
But in
hockey, I'm just going to say it. It is to amass a slew of games played, such as Andrew Cogliano has, is truly amazing. It is because you're not talking about baseball where he's got and I love baseball, but a guy in right field might stand around for an hour or 2 of the game. There's no activity.
Right.
You're in hockey. You are on that ice.
It's physically punishing. Yeah.
Yep. So truly amazing. Truly amazing.
Yep. To play that many games, that's basically 829 games. That's 10 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So congrats to him. Anyway.
And I tell you, I could see him setting the record.
He's not that far from it. He's about 140 away. So I don't know. We'll see.
That's 2 years.
Yep. He'll have to stay healthy, but he's proven he can do that. Yep. So, all right. That's all I had for transactions. Let's move on to injuries. Buffalo Sabres defenseman Zach Bogosian will be out 4 to 6 weeks with an upper body injury sustained in practice on Wednesday. Bogosian was injured when he got tangled up in a battle for a loose puck with forward Evander Kane in the corner and went down. Bogosian needed help leaving the ice and was unable to put any weight on his left leg. Bogosian missed the first 25 games of the season with a lower body injury sustained on September 29th in the Sabres' final preseason game against the Islanders. He had 1 assist and averaged 19.09 of ice time in 18 games. That's a bit of a loss for them, but that team is pretty much done this season anyway. So The tanking season has begun for Buffalo to see if they can. They're going to be a good team, though. I mean, we joke about how bad the Sabres are. They're going to be a good team that in about 3-5 years. You've got. You already have Jack Eichel on the team. You've got Casey Middlestat, who is basically the star for Team USA in the World Junior Championship. He's a Sabres prospect. Right. If they finish dead last and win the lottery, or at least get a top 3 pick in this year's draft, they're going to get another decent player out of that.
I think Robin Lehner is a very good goalie. I really do think he is a good goalie. Yep.
So that's a team. Yeah, Sabres fans, hang in there. There's going to be, a couple more seasons before they're relevant again. But when they do come around, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is actually not a player injury, but more of a broadcaster one. NHL on NBC analyst Pierre Maguire is in good spirits, upbeat, and focused on rehabilitating from surgery for prostate cancer in time to fly to South Korea on February 8th to begin work at the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics. Maguire had surgery for prostate cancer at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York on January 4th, approximately 3 months after irregularity showed up during his regular annual physical with his family doctor at Columbia's Presbyterian Medical Center in New York. And I've got a link to the article talking about how this came about and why all of a sudden Pierre Maguire all of a sudden has cancer. So it appears they caught it very early, and the prognosis for him is very good.
Yeah, and that's good too. And our prayers go to him, because I tell you what, he is a class guy. I love his analysis during the game, and he's always upbeat, pumped. When he asks for those player interviews, I don't know. He's got those questions off the cuff, and they're always good questions to the players. His insight, he's just great. I enjoy watching Pierre Maguire so much, and I love he thinks the game so well. And I'm going to miss him. I hope he comes back quickly, because the show is not the same without him. And
there's a lot of fans that don't like him, though.
Well, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them.
There's only one little thing that annoys me with him is that he's to me it's just an annoyance. He loves to spout off his knowledge of where these players came from. Now, I don't know if he's studying the roster or if he's got his notes right in front of him, but anytime he mentions a player's name, he's either mentioning Jimmy Howard from the University of Maine, or he's constantly spouting off colleges and junior teams that these players go to. I'm like, we get it. The players where they came from.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, obviously, prayers out to him. We don't feel ill will toward anybody, obviously, in this podcast. But yeah, just safe to say that. Pierre Maguire is a bit of a polarizing figure as far as the sideline reporter is concerned. And I don't know where it comes from, all the hate for him. I really don't. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other on him. But like you said, there's some people that love him. There's a lot of people that don't like him. And I don't know. I guess I'd have to get to know him to make a real fair judgment on him.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to the next one. We have an update on Chris Kreider, New York Rangers forward. He's going to be reevaluated in 6 weeks after having rib resection surgery on Sunday. He remains out indefinitely. 6 weeks from the date of surgery is February 18th. Rib resection involves surgical removal of a segment of the first rib, in which is the rib closest to the head under the collarbone, according to University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinics Authority. So, when we talked about this last week, we knew he was going to have this surgery, but there was nothing in the articles that we saw that gave any kind of time frame in terms of how long he was going to be out. Well, at least this one gives you a date.
Right.
6 weeks is February 18th. Now, that means he'll be reevaluated then. Whether he'll come back is another question.
That's right.
So I know you're just hoping to get him back for the playoffs.
Yeah, at least by then. But I'm actually hoping he's back by March, Wayne.
Yeah.
If he gets back in February, that's a bonus.
Yep. And I don't recall how long Steven Stamkos was out with this. He had the same surgery, so
they did say that on NBC Darren Drager reported on it, and I think the word was that it was 2 to 3 months that Stamkos was out.
Oh, okay.
That's off the top of my head, and I could be wrong on that, but I know Darren Drager reported on it and said there is no prior precedence with the exception of Steven Stamkos' injury, and that's what they were going off of.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess we'll just wait and see on that one. All right, next one. It's actually got a few injuries this week. Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Dan Girardi is day-to-day after he was hit in the back of the helmet by a slap shot from Detroit Red Wings forward Martin Frk on Sunday. The Lightning said all tests came back negative. Girardi left at 13:29 in the second period during the Lightning's 5-2 win against the Red Wings at Little Caesars Arena. So day-to-day there, they're not saying exactly when it's going to happen, but just took a puck to the helmet, I guess.
Yeah, I did not see that play, but I guess they're just, you know how it goes now with concussions or possible concussions, man, they're going to scrutinize it.
For sure. Yeah, they're going to be ultra careful on that one. So, but day-to-day is a good sign that he won't be out long. Florida Panthers goaltender Roberto Luongo, who has not played since December 4th because of a lower body injury, likely won't return until February. Luongo, who was injured in a 5-4 shootout loss against the Islanders on December 4th, is 6-6-1 with a 2.61 goals against average and .928 save percentage in 15 games. So, in this case, it looks like he was working out, getting ready to come back, and I don't know if he had a setback or what it was, but they're talking February now for Luongo.
Yeah, they need Roberto Luongo.
Yep, if they're going to get back in the playoff hunt, for sure.
They're on life support or getting close to being on life support. They need Luongo.
Yep. So. All right, let's see. The next one I have, this is a big one. Tampa Bay Lightning defenseman Victor Hedman will be out 3 to 6 weeks because of a lower body injury. Hedman was injured when he banged knees with Calgary Flame forward Garnet Hathaway during the Lightning's 5-1 loss on Thursday. Hedman was helped off the ice at 6:13 in the second period. He has 33 goals with a +24 rating in 44 games this season. The number 2 pick in the 2009 NHL draft, he has 334 points in 593 games through 9 seasons, all with the Lightning. So not only the Lightning lose the game to Calgary last night, they lose their best defenseman.
Yep. And he will not be in the All-Star game. We'll report on that later, but that's it. He won't be for that.
So who do you think they're going to put in there instead of him?
My hope is like Shattenkirk or, I don't know how to. I think there's a lot of deserving players, but
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to come from the Lightning, because the Strawman would be the next logical as far as a Lightning player is concerned. But yeah, it would have to come from the Atlantic Division though. So Atlantic Division will have to make an announcement on who's going to replace Hedman because he was named to the All-Star team. Oh, and by the way, I just looked at the chat room on the live stream. Evan says, "Hi, Grandpa."
Oh, good. Very good. Tell him I said hello. I guess I can tell him myself.
Yeah.
Hello.
He's watching, so.
Very good. Very good.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Pittsburgh Penguins goaltender Matt Murray has gone home to Ontario because of a personal family matter. Penguins announced today. Murray is 15-12-1 with a 2.93 goals against average, 903 save percentage in 31 games this season. Penguins recalled goaltender Casey DeSmith from Wilkes-Barre Scranton of the American Hockey League on Friday. DeSmith is 0-1 with a 3.00 goals against average and 833 save percentage in 2 games with the Penguins this season. So, no details were given. This one just came through just as we were going on the air with this podcast. So, we don't know what's going on. Usually a personal family matter means something bad has happened to a member of his family. And, that's just assuming. We're just jumping to making an assumption here, but we've seen these types of stories before, and that's generally what is going on there. So hopefully everything is going well with Matt Murray, but he obviously felt the need to leave the team. And there was no timetable for his return,
right.
So
right.
We don't know how long that will be, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know what to say there either on that one. Usually when you see something like that, there's and you say death in the family, it would be a close member of his family.
Yeah,
a mother, a father.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is
Grandmother, grandfather.
When the news story, if you think back to Craig Anderson, when the story of his wife battling cancer started to come out, that's pretty much how it started. He disappeared for a week or two,
right?
And then it came out that his wife had cancer and she's battling that. But it took a week or two for that news to come out. So let's just hope it's not something major going on there. All right, that's all the injuries I had, unless you had some come out.
No, I have nothing more to report on. I think I was not even aware of Victor Hedman, so I think you're on. You got them all, Wayne.
Yep. Yeah, that Victor Hedman one obviously is the biggest injury of the week by quite a margin. So the Atlantic Division teams will have a shot at catching Tampa Bay now, because Hedman is a big, huge part of their team. He is
absolutely.
You've got Stamkos, you've got with the offensive powerhouse that they've built there. I would arguably Hedman is more important to that team than even guys like Stamkos. So
yeah, well, and he's a Norris Trophy candidate too.
Yeah,
he's a Norris Trophy candidate. So that's how important he is.
Yep. All right. So as far as the next category is suspensions and fines go, we only had one that I saw from the past week. Yep. It's just a fine. Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman David Savard has been fined $5,000, maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement, for slashing Florida Panthers forward Vincent Trocheck during NHL game number 647 in Columbus on Sunday. The incident occurred at 16:02 of the third period. Didn't see the play, so I can't comment whether or not he deserved that, but safe to say that he probably does, because most of the time through the last couple of years when we've been looking at these, when you go back and look at the video, yeah, they probably deserved it.
Yep.
So,
and as you and I have discussed, $5,000, to them is, he pulls that out of his pocket, out of the washing machine, and I forgot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, give me that back here.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some of the other interesting stories that have come across our radar screen. And let's start with wrapping up the World Juniors. As we said at the beginning of the show, when we recorded last week, they had, as of yet, finished or they didn't even play the gold medal game until after we were done recording. They were in the middle of the bronze medal game when we were recording, and that game ultimately ended up being a win for the United States. So the United States takes the bronze. That leaves us the gold medal game between Sweden and Canada. And did you watch that game?
No, I did not watch it. I didn't. When the United States I don't know. I lost interest in it. I just didn't want to see Canada. I just didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, I just didn't want to watch that again. I had an eerie feeling that Canada was going to win, and I just didn't want to see it.
Yep. Well, it's probably a good thing you didn't watch it then, because Canada did in fact win the gold medal of the World Junior Championships. They won the game 3-1. It was actually a good game, fast, up and down hockey. It ended up being a 1-1 game until late in the third. There probably was, I can't remember when exactly the go-ahead goal was scored, but it was I'm thinking less than 2 minutes to go in the game when Canada took the 2-1 lead. And then, of course, Sweden pulled their goalie, and Canada, of course, gets the empty netter to make it 3-1. So 3-1 is the final. Canada takes gold. Sweden takes the silver, and then, of course, USA takes the bronze. There was one little controversial moment, though, in that game that I wanted to bring up, and somebody caught it on video. As they were handing out the silver medals to Sweden, one of the Sweden players, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which player it was. I probably should have looked that up, but one of the Sweden players took his medal. As soon as he gives it to him, he turns around. How they skate up to one of the officials, get their medal, and then they go back to their spot in line. When he gets back to his spot standing in the line, he just takes his silver medal and throws it into the stands. Wow. Like almost disgusted that he ended up with that medal.
Wow. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, and I don't know what ultimately I had heard and I don't know how true it is, that ultimately the person who caught that ended up getting it back to the player, because obviously the player might have had, after the team, the pain of losing wears off a little bit later that evening. I had heard that the medal found its way back to that player, but for that moment anyway, he basically took that silver medal almost like I said, in disgust, and just tossed it into the stands like, I don't want this. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Now, poor sportsmanship, I don't know. It's kind of a crappy way to win. I mean, it's the way it works in these international competitions. They don't just hand out, like, in the Stanley Cup, you got one winner. In the NCAA, you got one winner. Memorial Cup, you got one winner.
Yep.
There's international play, there's a gold, silver, and bronze. There's 3 winners.
Right.
But when you win the silver in hockey, it doesn't feel like you won anything. You just lost the championship game.
Right. So
I could see the player's perspective in that. He doesn't want anything to do with the silver because it's not gold.
Yep. I look at it this way, Wayne. Sweden lost to Canada. He probably wouldn't have thrown that medal away if they had won silver against, I don't know, pick another team. The Czech Republic. It probably would have been indifferent to him.
Yeah.
But losing to Canada in Buffalo, New York, it probably just burned his. I don't know. That's my take, and I didn't see it. I didn't watch the game. I just told you.
Yeah.
But I just see it as, Sweden don't like losing to Canada either.
No.
I'm sure you go up to Sweden, you hear some words about Canada up there when it comes to their hockey team too.
Yeah.
They don't like losing to them.
Yeah, it's and Canada's got that reputation. They're kind of the world leaders, I guess, if you will, of hockey. But the problem that you and I seem to be having with Canada is they almost feel like they're entitled to it.
Yeah,
and that's why you and I were both cheering for Sweden in that game, because we didn't want to see Canada get to fulfill what they think is their entitlement to a championship. So, anyway.
I agree with that.
I don't know. It's just an uncomfortable moment.
Said it better.
It was an uncomfortable moment when I saw him toss that thing into the stands. I'm like, what is he doing? But, I guess momentary lapse in judgment. I mean, they are 19, 20-year-old players, so.
Yeah.
We all know what poor decisions can be made when you're 19 or 20, or 18 for that matter. So, yeah. All right, next story. The Tampa Bay Lightning will be well representative in their home rink for the 2018 NHL All-Star Game at Amalie Arena on January 28th. Forward Nikita Kucherov, defenseman Victor Hedman, and goalie Andrei Vasilevsky were named to the Atlantic Division All-Star Team by the NHL Hockey Operations Department on Wednesday, joining center Steven Stamkos, who was voted by fans as a captain of the Atlantic team. Lightning coach John Cooper will coach the Atlantic Division All-Stars. And then, of course, there's a link there to the rosters of the teams. Let's take a quick look at those, though. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the NHL All-Star rosters.
Yes, I have.
Well, here's a question for you. You've taken a look at those rosters. Is there any players that you feel shouldn't be there?
Well, I think right off the bat, I think Tampa Bay's got too many players to begin with. So I think that I would be very upset if they pick Anton Strawman, a former Ranger, to represent. I think they should pick another team, and I said Shattenkirk, and I wasn't even thinking about it. They have to go with an Atlantic Division team, but they should pick another team in the Atlantic Division and pick a defenseman.
Yep. Yeah, the Atlantic Division goes as follows. Basically, the way it works is that we're doing that 3-on-3 tournament style format this time around, just like we did last year. So you have 4 teams in this tournament, 1 team for each division. So division rivals will be playing together on the same team. Each team will have 11 players on their roster. So that gives you 2, 4, 6 forwards, 3D, and 2 goalies per roster.
And 4 of them were coming from Tampa Bay.
And 4 out of the roster was Tampa Bay. Now, if you look at the rules also state that every team in the league needs to send at least 1 representative.
Right.
So if you look at the Atlantic Division, with Tampa Bay taking up 4 players, that leaves no room whatsoever to add any players. So every other team in that division sent exactly one player.
Yep. Unfair.
So yeah.
So
So the Atlantic Division goes as follows. Alexander Barkov from Florida, Jack Eichel from Buffalo. You got Kucherov. You've got Brad Marchand from Boston, Austin Matthews from Toronto, Steven Stamkos, Mike Green from Detroit, Victor Hedman, Erik Karlsson of Ottawa, Carey Price of Montreal, and Andrei Vasilevsky, are the goaltenders. And with Tampa Bay having 4 players, that leaves essentially the rest of the roster having just one guy on each team. So, yeah, I welcome a little bit of variety on that. Metropolitan, you've got Josh Bailey, Sidney Crosby, Claude Giroux, Taylor Hall, Alex Ovechkin, John Tavares, Noah Hannafin comes from Carolina, Seth Jones, Chris Letang, Braden Holtby, Henrik Lundqvist. Hard to argue against any of those guys.
I agree.
Central Division, Patrick Kane, Nathan McKinnon, Braden Shen, Tyler Sagan, Eric Stahl, Blake Wheeler, John Klingberg, Alex Pietrangelo, PK Subban, and Connor Hellebuck. And, of course, Pekka Rinne. And then out west in the Pacific Division, you have Brock Besser, Johnny Gaudreau, Anze Kopitar, Connor McDavid, James Neal, Ricard Raquel, Brent Burns, Drew Doughty, OEL, or Oliver Ekman Larson. OEL. That's what we call him.
Man.
Marc-Andre Fleury and Jonathan Quick in net. So, good mix of players. Like I said, it's hard to find fault with any of these picks. Obviously, the NHL went with not only players who are having good seasons, but players with star power. Now, as far as players that were snubbed, this is quite a list, too. You can make a really good 5th team with this. In goal, some goaltenders that I picked out that could arguably be deserving, but didn't get the call. Gibson out of Anaheim, Bobrovsky, Tuukka Rask, Frederick Anderson, Mike Smith.
I agree. Bobrovsky's had a great year.
Yep. Back on defense, a couple of snubs. John Carlson, Shane Gostisbehere, Morgan Riley, Ryan Suter, Tyson Barrie, Nick Leddy, who've all had great seasons. And up at forward, Voracek, Kessel, Tarasenko, Huberdeau, also known as Hooby Dooby Doo, according to their announcer. Couturier, Mark Stone, Antti Rantanen, Kuznetsov, Marchessault, Trocheck, Anders Lee, Sean Monahan, Evgeny Malkin, Brock Besser, David Pasternak. All have had great seasons, but were snubbed. So I guess you got to decide where the line cuts off. So I wouldn't be opposed to, because these 11-man rosters only allow for 3 lines.
I didn't hear anything about Shaggy. You talk about Hooby Dooby Doo.
Hooby Dooby Doo.
I didn't hear anything about Shaggy.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
That's Brent Burns.
That's Jumbo.
That's true. Jumbo didn't make the cut either.
Shaggy didn't make it.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if this rule requiring one player from each team, I get that. That way you're engaging 31 different fan bases. But here's the thing. They're only picking 44 players total, and you have 31 teams. That leaves barely, 1.5 per team? Less than 1.5 per team. So that's why a lot of teams out there are a lot of really good teams with really good players on them that only one player got chosen.
Right.
So I guess, I don't know. Maybe the time has come to expand the rosters, make it 14 players on a team. That way you can get a few more names in there. I don't know what you can do. But the way they're set up, you've got 3 sets of lines, forward and D, because it's a 3-on-3 tournament. So you got 6 forwards, 3 D. If they were to go to 8 forwards and 4 D and have the coaches roll 4 lines, that might be a better idea.
Yeah.
Of course, then you might run out of room on the bench for all those extra players, but who knows? All right, next story. Tom Dundon became majority owner of the Carolina Hurricanes on Thursday, officially. The NHL announced the completion of the sale, which was agreed to in December. The NHL Board of Governors previously approved the transaction. Dundon will own 61% of the Hurricanes, with Peter Karmanos retaining a minority stake. So as I mentioned to you earlier before we started recording, I watched all of the press conference that had to do with that. Basically, they made a big deal out of it. Even the Commissioner Bettman came to town today.
Oh, wow.
He was in town. Karmanos, the owner that's selling the team, he was there. He rarely comes to Raleigh these days. In fact, this may be his last trip to Raleigh ever for all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karmanos was in town. Bettman was in town. Obviously, the new owner, and then of course, a couple of Don Waddell, the president of the team, and
Ron Francis.
Ron Francis. All 5 guys sat at a table, did kind of a town hall style question and answer session. Gary Bettman spoke at the beginning of the speech. In fact, I'm including excerpts from this press conference instead of doing a Hurricanes goal this week at the beginning of the show, I'm doing excerpts from this press conference this week. So I thought those might be a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, very good.
The big thing that stood out to me, though, first and foremost, Bettman's comments at the beginning of the press conference where he said this team was never going to be on the move, and he flat out said that the stories about the team moving were fabricated probably by media outlets in cities that want teams, a.k.a. Quebec.
Doesn't surprise me at all, Wayne.
So what better way to start rumors? If you're a city that wants a team, if you can introduce doubt into a fan base, and obviously that's going to affect attendance, because why would you spend big bucks to go to a game when a team might not be here in a year?
Listen, Wayne, I hope Raleigh uses this and they become stronger, their franchise, as a result of this.
Yep.
The Quebec swirlings, the prospect that Carolina would move to the highest bidder. You heard this stuff about Houston.
Yep.
I even talked in at work one time with a guy at the water. Oh yeah, I hear Raleigh's for sale. The Carolina Hurricanes are up for sale.
Yep.
And he was hinting at Texas. I said I doubt very seriously the NHL is going to move another team to Texas.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen for at least 7 years. That's the agreement in place. The Carolina Hurricanes have signed with as part of this deal. They're staying put for at least 7 more years. So you and I will have plenty of hockey to go see in the next few years.
Yeah,
at the very least. And
yeah,
I'm very excited about this new owner because he was saying all the right things today. He was saying that he's a very impatient guy. He wants to win. He's passionate about the sports teams that he gets behind, and he's already on board. He's already all in with the Hurricanes. He's excited about the team that they've got here, and how good that this team can be with the youth that they've got, and he thinks this team's going in the right direction. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is he said it flat out. He's putting winning above saving money.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He wants to win.
Yeah.
So if you're a Hurricanes fan, you should be very excited about this ownership change, because for the past several years, it's been well documented at the personal financial issues of the Karmanos clan. A couple of the sons were suing Peter Karmanos because he was using their so-called trust fund to finance the team, and there's smoke there with financial issues with the Karmanos family. Well, this guy, there's no financial issues. He has flat out said he's going to. They're not going to be foolish spending money. You're not going to see him sign players that don't deserve it. But they are not going to let a player pass because they feel he's outpricing the market.
Right.
If they feel he can help the team, they are going to spend the money. So he basically said he's not afraid to spend to the cap if it makes sense.
Good.
He said not so many words. So I think I'm excited because I think this team is finally going to turn a corner, and you're finally going to see a concerted effort to make this team successful on the ice. And he talked about the what I would call the vicious cycle of, what's been happening with the Hurricanes. Yeah, they won the Stanley Cup. They were selling out during the Stanley Cup run. And then, the team started getting, they had to get rid of some of their guys because they couldn't afford to keep them here at the prices that they were, at. So on. So the team gets worse. Then the attendance goes down, and then the team gets worse, and then it goes down some more, and so on. It's a cycle, right?
Right.
He said that we're going to turn the cycle around. He knows that if the team on the ice is entertaining and wins, that the fans will come back. But they're not going to wait for the fans to come back in order to spend money on the team. He says, we're going to take the first step and then wait for the fans to come back. So basically, they're not going to wait for the fans to come back in order to start spending money, which is what Karmanos essentially was doing. Karmanos would spend the money when the fans come back. Well, the fans weren't coming back because the team on the ice wasn't good. And the team wasn't good on the ice, so the fans didn't come in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to turn that cycle around. And he said the team is going to take the first step. We're going to make the team, the product on the ice, worth coming to see. And then when the fans come back, they'll be able to reinvest with better players. And then more fans come back and then reinvest and so on and so on. His expectation of the people that work for him is that they put a winning product on the ice year in and year out. Not make a run and then disappear from the playoffs for 4 years, and then make another run, disappear from the playoffs for 3 years. He wants to put a product on the ice that's going to win year after year after year. So he was saying all the right things with this press conference today. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know that in order for that team to stay here, they need to be a good team.
Yep.
So, and they're gonna make a very strong effort to make sure that happens.
Right.
So, unfortunately, they're in the same division with the Rangers, so that may not be such good news to you. But
yeah, that's right. We'll have to see. It's always a treat to go to Raleigh though and watch a game, Wayne.
Yep,
you know?
it is.
Yep.
It is. And if they're playing anybody but my Bruins, or you feel the same about the Rangers, I want the team to do well.
Yeah.
So it'll be a story we'll be following. All right, and the next story I have, Chris Kelly, who helped the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup in 2011, was one of 25 players named to the Canada men's hockey team for the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics on Thursday. Also named to the team were 23 former NHL players, 3 of whom are playing in the American Hockey League currently. Kelly, who's currently playing in Belleville. I was wrong. I thought he was playing in the KHL. He's in Belleville. The Ottawa Senators affiliate, defenseman Cody Gobelev with Stockton and Calgary Flames affiliate, and forward Christian Thomas with Wilkes-Barre Scranton, the Pittsburgh Penguins affiliate. And I included a link in the show notes to the roster. But here's some names that you might recognize. Justin Peters.
Yeah.
He was a backup here in Carolina for a number of years. Ben Scrivens, who I believe is playing in the KHL. Kevin Poulin. Let's see. Marc-Andre Graziani, Chris Lee, Maxim Noro, Matt Robinson, Carl Stollery. Defensemen, those names don't ring a bell. Rene Bourque, Gilbert Brule, or Brule. Seems to be an older team. Rob Klinkhammer. I didn't even know he was still playing. Maxime Laperriere. Eric Odell. Mason Raymond. He played for Vancouver for a number of years. Derek Roy.
Yep.
Wojtek Wolski.
Yep.
So they're all playing for Team Canada.
Wow.
In the Olympics. So they seem to be picking an older team than USA did.
Right.
Veterans of the KHL American League, I think, are where most of these players are from. I didn't see any young prospects in there, whereas the Americans have two or three college-age players playing for their team. And finally this week, the postponed game between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins, originally scheduled for January 4th, has been rescheduled, and it will be on Sunday, April 8th at TD Garden.
So that'll be the day after the close of the regular season.
The very last day of the regular season, I think. I think Sunday is officially the last day of the regular season. But the Bruins would have finished Saturday night, as would have Florida. So now they're both teams who are playing Saturday night are now going to be playing Sunday night as well that week. So a busy month just got busier for those teams.
Absolutely.
All right, honors and milestones. There was only one this week. We had the 3 stars of the week: Boston Bruins center Patrice Bergeron, Colorado Avalanche goaltender Jonathan Bernier, and Pittsburgh Penguins center Sidney Crosby have been named the NHL's 3 stars for the week ending January 7th. Bergeron shared the league lead with 5 goals in 3 games to power the Bruins to a 2-0-1 week, extending their overall point streak to 11 games. Bernier went 3-0 with a 1.6 goals against average, .957 save percentage, and 1 shutout to guide the Avalanche to a perfect week and help extend the team's overall winning streak to 5 games, their longest such run since December 12th through the 19th of 2015. Crosby collected a league-high 7 assists and 8 points in 4 games to lead the Penguins to a trio of wins. So kudos to those 3. 2 weeks in a row, Bruins player has been in that.
Yeah, they're racking them up now, Wayne.
Yep.
Let us Rangers have one or two.
And with that in mind, we've got to talk power ranking for the week.
Yep.
I believe it's my turn.
It's your turn, Wayne.
And I took a different approach to it. I kind of got lazy this week, actually, with the power rankings. Here's what I did. Ran a little Excel spreadsheet to determine, because there's that wide range of games played for each team. You got the Bruins and Sharks with 40 games played. You've got who was it? Is it St. Louis? Played 46. So you got them all over the map with games played. I took the league standings and I broke it down to show an average points, like standings points, per game played. Okay. Mm-hmm. So at the top, you've got Tampa Bay with 1.512 points per game. And at the bottom, of course, you got Arizona. They're at 0.605 games played. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I simply took this and I turned this into my power ranking for this week to kind of change things up a little bit. So, with that in mind, at number 16 this week, I've got the Calgary Flames, and they are at 1.143 points per game. Okay. At number 15, I've got Colorado. At number 14, I've got the Rangers. They're at 1.167 points per game.
Amazing.
At 13, I've got Columbus. At 12, I've got Toronto. At 11, I've got Dallas. At number 10, I've got St. Louis. And see, you had them 3, and they're like third in the league in overall points. But because they played so many games, if you look at it on a points per game basis, they got 1.196 points per game. That's 11th best in the league. So that's why I've got them all the way down to 11. I'm sorry, number 10. No, 10 is St. Louis. At number 9, I've got San Jose. At number 8, I've got Los Angeles. At 7, New Jersey. At number 6, Washington. And on a points per game basis, the Boston Bruins are the number 5 team in the league. They have 1.325 points per game played. 53 points in 40 games. The Bruins have. At number 4, we've got Nashville. At number 3, Winnipeg. Number 2, the Vegas Golden Knights. They've only played 41 games, but they're already at 60 points. That's 1.463 points per game. And then, of course, number 1, we talked about it already, Tampa Bay Lightning at 65 points at 1.512 points per game, leading the way once again this week.
Yeah.
So when you look at it points per game, Tampa Bay is still number 1 team in the power rankings.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That's a very interesting way of doing it.
But that puts Vegas at number 2.
Yep, very interesting.
So, and other notables, let's see, the Rangers are in the top 16. So Carolina is 18th.
Yeah.
And that's including their win last night. So they're at 1.116 points per game. Carolina is. And of course, on the outside, you've got Chicago, you've got Anaheim, you've got Pittsburgh, all below that 16 spot.
Yeah.
So, interesting way to look things up.
Very interesting.
So, I just took a glance up. It is, in fact, Grubauer against Cam Ward tonight in the Carolina-Washington game.
I'm feeling good about Carolina's chances.
Yep. I'm curious what the crowd is going to be like tonight after all the news coming across. All right, let's look ahead to the week ahead. And New York Rangers have a very light schedule, don't they?
They play they play 4 games if you go until next Friday.
I think I just didn't finish that part on my notes.
Oh, did you? Well, I don't know that, Wayne.
Yeah.
They play the Islanders tomorrow in the Garden, and then on Sunday we play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. That's the NBC game of the week.
Yep.
That'll be a good game. Then Tuesday night in the Garden again, we play the Philadelphia Flyers. That's an NBC Sports Network game. And then you go out to Thursday, which would be the last game we would probably talk about.
Yep.
And once again, an NBC Sports Network game on Thursday night. We're playing the Buffalo Sabres in the Garden.
Oh, okay.
So I'm hoping to win 3 of those games, Wayne.
That's tough games,
Pretty much have to.
Yep, a lot of divisional games there, too.
Divisional games. Yes, they are.
And those divisional games, as we head deeper into the season, have become more and more important. Not that they weren't already. They were important from the drop of the season. Now it's even more so. Well, the Bruins are coming out of their bye week, so they are going to have a busy week upcoming. They've got Montreal on the 13th. That's tomorrow night. That is actually the first meeting of the year between those two teams. But they play each other 3 times in 8 days starting Saturday night.
Wow.
So 2 of them in Montreal, 1 in Boston. So yeah, screwy schedule there. They don't play each other all the first half of the year, and then all of a sudden 3 times in 8 days.
That's
in
interesting.
January. And then on the 15th, they've got Dallas at home. And then on the 17th is the second of the Montreal trio of games. And that one is at home. So the first one's on the road, the second one's at home, and then the third one in that 8-day span is back in Montreal. And then on the 18th, they've got the Islanders at the Island.
Yeah.
So some winnable games there.
Yes.
Montreal's down in the standings, and I know Boston's always seems to have trouble scoring on Carey Price. So those games can go either way, but they really need to get probably 3 points out of those 2 games.
Yep.
And then you've got Dallas, who's playing very well, and the Islanders, who are kind of on their way down the standings too. So there's some points to be had there, and they need to capitalize on it. Now, Carolina, on the other hand, is heading into their bye week. So they have a very light schedule this week. They're at at home against Washington tonight, and then they've got Calgary on Sunday at home, and then they're on their 5-day bye. So very light week for Carolina, and overall a light week around the league because
because of the second bye week,
the second half of all the bye weeks, right?
And I was disappointed that we never heard from the traveling Yoggers with Calgary coming to town. They gave up on the tailgating that we offered.
Yep.
At the first of the year. So
well, it looks like Yager might not make it anyway. He's been hurt. He's been struggling to make the lineup, and I don't think Yager's going to make it.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing reports out of Calgary that they're looking for a way out. Both sides are looking for a way out. So
I think that's it for him.
Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, but I think his time in the NHL at this point. Can't say there won't be any KHL, but in the NHL, I think it's pretty much done for him because I don't think there are any other takers around the league for him either. Oh, and I just glancing up at the screen. They were making jokes. I don't know if you saw it on NHL Network the other day, where we had a Carolina Hurricanes fat trick the other night. You know what the fat trick is?
No.
Well, you know the promotions that they have, right? One promotion is the Justin Fox scoring a goal. It gives you free queso at Moe's, right? We know about that one.
Yep.
Carolina Hurricanes score 3 goals or more, you get half price off your order at Papa John's Pizza, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third one is if the Carolina Hurricanes score a power play goal, you get a free Bo-Berry biscuit at Bojangles. Well, the other night, all three happened in one game, completing the first Carolina fat trick of the season. So the next day you could go.
Shoot them up on any of those. And I love that queso at Moe's, my God, and I missed out on it.
Yeah.
Very good, Wayne.
And we're on our way to our second fat trick of the year because Carolina just scored a power play goal, so you get a free Bo-Berry biscuit tomorrow at Bojangles.
Or as it's commonly referred to, Bojangles.
Right. So yeah, we just need Hurricanes score 3 goals and Justin Falk to get a goal, and we can have another fat trick tomorrow. And I'm off tomorrow. I might just take him up on it.
Oh, Papa John's is getting a call.
All right, enough silliness. Let's move on to the minor league hockey minute. And you have a goalie you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I did. And if you want me to go first, Wayne, that's kind of you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to talk about, we talked pre-show about the flourishing hockey picture in Southern California. And I'm not sure if our listeners out there keep abreast of this kind of thing. I've actually watched Los Angeles Kings games, and I've heard about it. They have high school hockey in Southern California. Not sure about the whole state. They may have it up in Northern California for all I know. But I know in Southern California they do have high school hockey.
Yep.
And it is a flourishing picture of what's happening in hockey in the United States. This goalie that actually plays for, and I believe I should have this on the tip of my tongue. I think he plays for Stockton. I'm not sure about this. I could be wrong. But no, he plays for the Rockford Ice Hogs. No, I'm wrong. He plays for the Rockford Ice Hogs. He is a prospect of the blossoming hockey picture in Southern California. So I'll read this article. It's a short one. I excerpted it from the San Bernardino Sun, entitled "Goalie from the IE," which I think they call it's the Inter Empire. It's part of Los Angeles County, San Bernardino, and I'm not sure if there's another county included in that. Riverside County. You have what they call the Inter Empire in Southern California. And so when you hear it referred to as the IE, that's what they're talking about. Goalie from the IE traveled plenty of miles before getting to the AHL. Now this almost sounds like Canada if you hear this article. It has been considered opinion in this space for years that youth hockey in Southern California may be the best kept secret around. The age group teams, the Junior Kings and Junior Ducks clubs, the high school hockey leagues run by the area's NHL clubs, they produce talent. Yet another example of SoCal's, and specifically the IE's hockey influence, was in net for the Rockford Ice Hogs, the AHL affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks, in their 5-2 victory over the Ontario Reign. Colin Delia, a 23-year-old from Rancho Cucamonga, is a first-year pro who has split this season between Rockford and the ECHL's Indianapolis Fuel after 3 years playing for Merrimack College in Hockey East.
Merrimack, yes.
Yeah.
Very familiar with them.
With him or not. So but he played at Merrimack.
Yep.
Before Merrimack, he played 2 seasons with the Amarillo Bulls in the NAHL, the North American Hockey League. And his path to reach that point, let's just call it a lot of miles on a lot of different freeways. Anaheim Ice with the Junior Ducks. I played Pee Wee B classification. That was my first year, and then I skipped around. I went to the Inland Valley Wild, and they were in Riverside. I think they're now the Junior Reign. And then I played with the California Wave in Artesia and Simi Valley with the SoCal Titans. So I've literally been all over the place. When we drove to Simi Valley, it was like an hour and 45 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, Delia recalled. So there was a lot of bonding time with your parents and a lot of time to do schoolwork. And yeah, those are fond memories as I look back. It doesn't get you a letter jacket or BMOC status, big man on campus status, although the players in the Ducks and Kings high school leagues across Southern California can say they're being true to their schools. But inside the hockey community, their efforts don't go unnoticed. You have to go through a little bit of adversity, Rockford coach Jeremy Colleton said. At the start of this year, he was up and down a little bit. He got in his first game and gave up some goals and kind of had to live with that for a month, which is tough. I think when he got the chance to come back in with the injury to Berube and Glass getting called up, he's really been good for us. He's given us a chance, and you can see the growth every game. That's what we're looking for. Everyone's high on him in the organization, and we're just hoping that he's going to continue to progress in the right way. Can't ask for much more than that. And so that was my article really quickly.
Native of Rancho Cucamonga, California.
Rancho Cucamonga. My goodness. That's, San Luis Obispo. You can pull some names out. You don't see many hockey players coming from those types of towns.
Nope. No, but you're starting to see it more and more nowadays.
Yes, and we're talking, Wayne, we're talking about the prospects of hockey in the United States, and it's changing drastically.
Yep.
So,
we got a kid we're following. I know his dad. I referee with his dad. He's playing with the U.S. National Development Program. Native of this area, he grew up here. He's going to be playing for BU next fall.
Yeah.
We talk about him over several shows. Tyler Weiss.
Weiss.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, he had to, in order to get his advanced hockey training, he had to go away from this area, but he started here. He played most of his youth hockey down here, so he ended up leaving here to go play juniors up north somewhere, but on his hometown it says Raleigh, North Carolina. So
yeah,
and he'll be drafted next spring, and you're starting to see more and more of that.
Yep,
you're seeing players, particularly from NHL cities, and I think that's what the NHL wants. That's what their whole goal was, is to bring hockey down into the southern markets, is to try to grow the game down here in the U.S. more than just the traditional, Boston, Minnesota, Michigan, more than just those traditional markets.
Right.
So it's good to see.
It's a fascinating thing to see hockey developing like that. And, you can throw this out there too. If they didn't have Wayne Gretzky and he wasn't traded there years ago, it probably would have happened, but not like it is now.
Oh, absolutely.
Wayne Gretzky is the reason
he put hockey on the map in California.
Absolutely, in Southern California.
Yep, for sure. So, and Austin Matthews is another good example.
That's right.
Would he be a hockey player today if the Coyotes weren't there in Arizona? Because that's where he's from.
That's right. And the answer to that is a resounding no.
Yep.
He grew up following that team and Shane Doan.
Yep. So, yeah, good deal. All right. Well, mine is coincidentally also a story about the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this little interesting story that I picked up. It was just because the jersey caught my eye. The headline reads, I found it on NHL.com, of course, Rockford AHL team to don pink uniforms, and they're going to dye the ice pink for a game on January 26th. See this from time to time. University of Maine did one of these some time ago. They painted the ice pink, and obviously they're raising awareness and money for breast cancer. So, but the jersey, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you look at it, have you seen the movie A League of Their Own?
No, I have not.
It's a movie. It was done in 1992. It was a movie about a women's baseball league that existed in the World War II era. And basically the reason the league came about was all the men were going off to the war, and they wanted to come up with a professional baseball league to continue to kind of keep the people entertained, keep things upbeat and light. Well, they created this league, a women's professional baseball league back then. From 1943 to 1954, it was called, I can't remember. It was called the Women's Pro Baseball. I can't remember the name of the exact league. But anyway, one of the teams was based in Rockford, and they were called the Rockford Peaches. And if you watch that movie, you see the uniforms that they wear. Basically, the women wore dresses, essentially. I mean, it's World War II era, so women were still pretty much wearing dresses no matter what back in those days. They were the Rockford Peaches of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And they basically designed the jersey to look exactly like this jersey. So if you see this jersey, you'll recognize it immediately if you've seen that movie, A League of Their Own.
That's something.
Madonna is one of the stars of that, and Gina Davis were two of the stars of that movie. And they were both playing for that Rockford team. But anyway, the article reads follows. The Rockford Ice Hogs are going all out for this year's Pink in the Rink night. The American Hockey League affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks will wear pink uniforms resembling those worn by the Rockford Peaches of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League and dye their ice pink as part of the promotion against Ontario on January 26th. The Ice Hogs uniforms will celebrate the 75th anniversary of women's pro baseball in Rockford. The Peaches were a flagship member of the Pro League, which operated from 43 to 54 and was made famous by the 1992 movie A League of Their Own. Each of the Peaches-inspired uniforms will be auctioned off with proceeds benefiting breast cancer research. The Ice Hogs have raised more than $180,000 for breast cancer since their first Pink in the Rink night in 2010. And that's essentially the end of the article. So
yeah.
But it's kind of neat to see those jerseys.
I'd love to see the pink ice. I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, well, we'll have to follow up on that one on January 26th. I'm sure there'll be highlights of that game somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that was my pick of the week.
Very good.
All right, let's move on to college hockey because I've got some fantastic news in the world of college hockey. For the first time in the history of our podcast, the University of Maine, my favorite team, is now ranked.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting?
That is. I'm very excited about that.
They are the number 20 ranked team in the country, so they're not up there just yet, but hey, they're ranked now.
Yeah.
That's better than they have been. Last weekend, they got a 3-0 win at BU back on the 6th, and then they had a 4-4 tie against Brown on the 8th, and Brown's, of course, unranked. They're now 11-7-2. They're 18th in the pairwise rankings, so they're just outside that bubble for NCAA consideration. And I also looked them up there's also another poll that is out there, the USA Today poll. They do a college hockey poll as well, and they're currently 19th on that poll. So this weekend, they've got 2 games at Northeastern. Northeastern is currently the number 10 team in the country.
Wow.
So if they can get a split this weekend, first game's tonight, second game's tomorrow night, I think they'll continue to climb the rankings.
You need to get that live streaming started up, Wayne.
Yeah. I think Northeastern, see, some schools still charge for their streams, other schools don't. I think Northeastern, if I'm right, still charges for their stream, and I won't pay to watch college hockey.
I hear you. Yeah.
I'm sure I can find a free stream of it somewhere, but
Yeah.
I'll probably try to get that game as soon as we're done recording here. Now, as far as upsets of ranked teams over the past week, we're going to start talking about Maine. It's kind of weird in these games. As far as ranked teams that got upset last week was week 13, I believe. No game scheduled. That doesn't make sense. 14. Trying to find the right week here. No, that's not it either. There it is. All right. Ranked teams losing last week. There was a 14 versus 15, so I don't know if you want to call that an upset, but that one went 5-1 Penn State over Wisconsin. Technically, Penn State's the higher-ranked team, but it was kind of a lopsided game. Unranked Quinnipiac beat number 17 Colgate 4-3 in overtime. And number 18 Nebraska Omaha beat number 6 North Dakota 4-1. At North Dakota, so that's a big upset there. Unranked Miami beat number 4 Denver 4-3, and number 13 Boston College lost to number 4 Michigan Tech in the Ice Vegas Invitational. I didn't know there was a college hockey tournament out there in Vegas.
Neither did I.
Yeah, must have been an interesting one. And, of course, there was a canceled game last week due to the storm. Boston University was supposed to play the U.S. National Development Program, and that game got canceled. That was Friday night. On Saturday night, number 14 and number 15, Penn State and Wisconsin played again. That one went tied, but Penn State won that one in a shootout. Number 17, Colgate, did beat Princeton 4-0. Number 6, North Dakota, did win the second night against Nebraska Omaha, so there's no upset there. And I don't see any other upsets. Every ranked team won their game. New Hampshire tied Brown 4-4. New Hampshire at the time was ranked number 20. Brown's unranked. But yeah, that's it for ranked teams. Oh, Minnesota, number 10, beat number 1 St. Cloud State in a non-conference game on Sunday, January 7th. So yeah, those were all the big upsets of the week. Nothing too earth-shattering there. As far as upcoming games between ranked teams, number 6 Ohio State is going to be at number 13 Penn State. That is Friday night, January 12th. That's tonight. Number 19 Colgate, but they're playing unranked Brown. Number 11 Providence is at number 16 Boston College. Number 20 Maine is at number 10 Northeastern. Number 20 Miami. So Maine and Miami technically are tied at number 20. Are at number 17 Nebraska Omaha. Number 12 Western Michigan is at number 2 St. Cloud State. And on Saturday night, probably going to have much of the same. Number 6 Ohio State is at number 13 Penn State. Number 20 Maine again at number 10 Northeastern. Number 12 Western Michigan is at number 2 St. Cloud State. Number 20 Miami again at number 17 Nebraska Omaha. And that is it for ranked teams playing each other for this week. And Maine actually has 3 games this week. So they have the 2 against Northeastern, and then Tuesday night they play at home. Their first home game since, mid-December. They're playing UMass at home. So
Okay.
Maine's got a busy week this week. An unusual 3 games. All right, and that's all I have. Well, wait, rankings. Let's talk pairwise. I've been going back and forth between the poll and pairwise. But in the pairwise, at number 10, we have Western Michigan. Number 9, Minnesota. Number 8, North Dakota. Number 7, Minnesota State. Number 6, Denver. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 4, Cornell. Number 3, Clarkson. Number 2, Notre Dame. And number 1, St. Cloud State. Not a lot of changes over the past several weeks there.
No.
Pretty much the same teams we've been talking about.
Yeah, they are. I think Notre Dame completed getting through the Big Ten conference without a loss. The first
time through.
First time through.
Yeah.
Which has never happened before.
Yeah, Notre Dame, they're 18-3-1, so they're in really, really good shape right now.
Yeah.
So they're a strong team anyway. They got one of the best coaches in the country in Jeff Jackson. So, all right, that's it for college hockey. So let's move on to our picks of the week.
Very good. Very good.
And
we seem to have flown through this. I don't know. It seems like, but we've got a lot to report on. But here we are, our picks of the week. We're at the end of the show.
Yep, we're at our picks of the week. All right, I have an interesting one. I don't know which one's going to go. You've got one about the Flyers throwing a birthday party. That's a feel-good story. Yep. I've got one about players' plans for the bye week. I don't know. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, mine is more of a length. Why don't I get mine out of the way? I'd like to hear yours.
All right.
And mine is kind of a touchy-feely article. It is. But it also, if you really think about this, Wayne, this is an amazing story about this young guy, age guy, who came just as tragic situation. But listen to what's happened, and it's really amazing. I found myself just an amazing fight this guy's put up. And the fellow's name is Jackie Lithgow. The Flyers, the name of the article is NHL.com. Flyers throw birthday party to reunite with fan after amazing recovery. Jackie Lithgow had a 23rd birthday so incredible he could hardly believe it was actually happening. He went to Flyers practice on January 3rd of this year, as he had done before during his miraculous recovery from a devastating punch to the head 4 years ago. Only this time, Wayne Simmons, Sean Couturier, Jakub Voracek, and Claude Giroux had a birthday cake there waiting for him with candles already lit on it. I turned to my parents and said, "Is this real?" Lithgow told NHL.com. "We were standing there with those 4 guys while we were eating the cake. Jakub Voracek helped me cut the cake and helped me serve it out, and we were just talking like 4 regular guys. It seemed surreal. It was pretty fun because I was just eating cake with 4 awesome players in the NHL." The Flyers met Lithgow not long after the incident that put him in a coma for 15 days and led to 6 surgeries on his skull, plus several other related procedures. He was a freshman at Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania in 2014 when he was struck in the head while trying to break up a fight at a fraternity pledge party. In a stroke of good fortune during an otherwise tragic situation, one of the responding officers was a retired life flight operator who insisted Lithgow get airlifted to the hospital right away because he had a narrow and shrinking window to survive. His relationship with the Flyers began while he was learning how to walk and talk again at McGee Rehabilitation Hospital in Philadelphia with the help of Linda Manti from Flyers Charities. Then Flyers forward Todd Fedoruk, and I got to admit, I never heard of him. I'm not familiar with him, was a team ambassador at the facility. And after they met, Lithgow, wheelchair-bound at the time, set a goal to attend the Flyers practice. It was hard, but I never had the attitude of, okay, this happened to me, I'm going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life, Lithgow said. I had the attitude of, okay, this happened to me. I accepted the fact that this wasn't this happened and it wasn't my fault. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. All you can do is live for the present and get better. Lithgow endured a couple of setbacks during his recovery, including contracting the deadly infection MRSA and bacterial meningitis. Yet he remained focused on his goal and achieved it in November 2014 when his physical therapist, Paula Bonsall, wheeled him to the glass at Voorhees Center, the Flyers practice facility. and helped him to his feet to watch his favorite team so it would count as therapy, which was the only way McGee would permit the outing. He visited the Flyers locker room after practice where he met the coaching staff and the players, all of whom never forgot him through the years. In March 2015, Lithgow attended the annual Flyers Wife's Carnival event for fans where he chatted with Ron Hextall, chatted with Dave Hextall, and assistant coach Ian LaPerriere, and still in his wheelchair, set another goal to compete in the Flyers 5K. 7 months later, he crossed the finish line after walking and jogging with his wheelchair behind him. At the end, to his surprise, Hextall got on the microphone, introduced him to the crowd, and presented him with the Flyers' 7th Man Award. By the time Lithgow made it to the Flyers practice last week, he'd gone to see them play the Pittsburgh Penguins on January 2nd with tickets he'd received from his parents. He's no longer using a wheelchair, and he's resumed his studies at Bloomsburg, taking 1 or 2 classes per semester in pursuit of his degree in mass communications. He hopes to one day work for the Flyers. Giving back to those who helped him during his recovery and assisting others are ongoing goals. Friends raised thousands of dollars to help him with his medical expenses, partly through the Jackie Lithgow golf tournament. The first 2 years, they raised money for his expenses, and the last 2, he used it to raise $29,000 that McGee, the Rehabilitation Center, spent on equipment for its patients. Other money raised through his foundation has gone to people in Pennsylvania with traumatic brain injuries. It just makes me happy, Lithgow said, because I know that I'm helping people who may have been through the same situation that I was going through. So, just once again, and I report on them a lot, Wayne. But those are things that you see so frequently in the NHL. That they put their arms around a guy like that, and in a positive way reinforce him to come back from something like that to the point now where he's a functioning guy in society again after a terrible incident like that. Wow. And so it's just an amazing story, and I my hat's off to the Flyers, their whole organization, for what they did.
Yep.
Great story.
Rewarding the guy for his devotion to that team, for sure. Yeah. Awesome story. Yeah, mine's just a bit of a lighthearted story. Talks about players, what they're doing with their bye weeks. Of course, every team gets a 5-day minimum break. All the breaks this year are taking place this week and next week. It's an article I found on NHL.com, and it just says for players, winter vacation plans run the gamut. And goes as follows. The NHL schedule is lighter for the next 2 weeks because of each of the 31 teams will take their mandatory 5-day break during the next 14 days. 15 teams have begun their break. The Arizona Coyotes started Sunday, and 14 more started Monday. The break was instituted last season to give the players a chance to get away from the mental and physical grind of the 82-game schedule. Many players and coaches choose to stay at home and relax, but plenty use the time to take rare in-season vacation usually reserved for around the All-Star game. For example, 5 New Jersey Devils players are taking their families to Orlando for what they hope will be a relaxing getaway, even if it means chasing their kids around Disney World for a while. Devils captain Andy Green said he and his wife Rachel will be joined by forward Brian Boyle and his wife Lauren Bedford, goalie Corey Schneider and his wife Jill, forward Drew Stafford and his wife Hallie, and forward Marcus Johansson and his wife Amelia Falk. Between them, they're bringing 8 kids, all under the age of 4. Green, Schneider, and Boyle each have 2 kids. Johansson has 1. The Staffords are bringing their older son, but leaving their 9-month-old twins at home with grandparents. It'll be a great trip, Green said. We're just spitballing what we want to do. There were a couple of different options, and that one seemed the most logical and the best. Green said the wives and kids flew to Orlando on Sunday when the Devils were in the process of losing at 5-4 in a shootout against the Islanders at Barclays Center. The players will be flying to Orlando together on Monday, and everyone is returning in the evening on Thursday. The Devils will practice Friday before playing the Philadelphia Flyers at Prudential Center on Saturday. As far as how often they'll be at Disney World, Green said it won't be every day because the parents want to, keep the same level of keep some level of sanity on the trip. A little bit, Green said. We're not going every day, all day. We'll probably do one day there, and we'll just relax and let the kids have a great time. They might see Boston Bruins goaltender Tuukka Rask, Montreal Canadiens defenseman Carl Alzner, or defenseman Jonathan Ericsson of the Detroit Red Wings on the It's a Small World ride at the Magic Kingdom. Each is on his way to Orlando as well for some sun and fun.
Man.
So, and here's some of the activities that some of the players are doing.
That's pretty neat.
Will Butcher of the Devils, his girlfriend and him are heading up just north of West Point, New York, to Mohonk Resort, just to relax. One thing we both like to do is be outdoors and do outdoor stuff. They have snowshoeing and other outdoor activities that appeal to us, so we're just going to go up there, hang out, and relax for 2 days.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Logan Couture, I'm going to Hawaii once we get back to San Jose, flying out with some buddies. Brandon Manning, Philadelphia Flyers, going to head up to Vermont. Me and my girlfriend and Valtteri Filppula and his wife is going up there too. I think we'll do some dog sledding and be in the lodge. Live the ski life a little bit. It's a mountain I've never been to. Riley Sheehan, Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm going to the Bahamas. Just enjoy the sunshine a bit and re-energize myself for the second half. Stephen Johns, Dallas Stars. Last year we went to the beach. Really didn't like it that much. This year we're going to California, renting a car and exploring the Redwood Forest. Gabriel Landeskog, Colorado Avalanche. Heading to Newport Beach, California, hoping to get in some golf. Sean Corrali, Boston Bruins. I'm going to hang out here and then maybe head up to Stowe, Vermont. I've never been up to that part of the country, so it should be cool. And then it says, not everyone's ready to hit the road for the break. Many NHL players are staying closer to home to spend time with family, catch up on some rest, nurse nagging injuries, or recharge the batteries. Kari Lettinen, just going to be a parent. Stay at home, play with my kids, be nice to my wife. Gustav Nyquist, Detroit Red Wings. I'm not going anywhere. My wife has to work, so I'm stuck up here in frozen Detroit. Justin Schultz, Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going to go home back to Kelowna, which is in British Columbia, and see some family. Sean Couturier, Philadelphia Flyers. I'm going back home to Drummondville, Quebec, building a house right now to see how it's going. Relax, recharge the batteries, come back better. So, yeah, all over the place where everybody's going.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Really neat.
Yep.
And, Gustav Nyquist staying in Detroit.
Doesn't sound like he's happy about it, does it?
What a sacrifice he's making.
My wife has to work. We got to stay put.
Oh.
I wonder what his wife does. For all I know, she's probably in real estate or something. I'm stuck up here in frozen Detroit. All right. Well, that's it for this week. I don't have anything else.
No, I'm all talked out as well.
And while you were doing your story, I found the main game.
Once again,
I can actually watch.
Oh, you did really?
Yep. And right now,
very good, man.
It's 3-1 Northeastern right now in the second. So I'll be watching that game, and I'll be watching the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't know what you'll be watching when we get off.
I don't know. I don't want Carolina to win, though, because they'll pull ahead of us in the standings, but we'll see what happens. I'm happy for them.
Well, it's 1-1 after 1 right now.
Yeah.
So, either way, I mean, it's a divisional game. What you don't want is a 3-point game.
That's right. That's right.
You want somebody to win in regulation in this one.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and end things for another week then. And until then, we'll see you next week. Have a good night, Steve.
Good working with you, Wayne.
All right. Have a good one.